Right then, so what I'm going to talk about now is taking bearings and using those bearings to march. So why do you take a bearing then? Firstly, you can plan a route. So when you've got your map, you're planning your route that you're going to do, you can take bearings on the map before you go out on the ground. Then you've got bearings that you can use whilst you're actually moving around on the area. One thing that's really good for is if the weather closes in, so if you get lots of cloud and stuff like that, mist, and you've got poor visibility, then it gives you an aid and a means to get from A to B. And also if it gets dark. The other thing you can use bearings for is to find out your position using other landmarks around you. I'm not going to cover that just yet, but that's one I'm going to cover later on in a resection exercise. Okay then, so taking a bearing. Right then, so I know I'm at this point here. This is a track leading out from this little wood line, and I want to make my way over to this church. Imagine this track isn't here. However, I can't see the church because it's all clagged out in front of me. So what I'm going to do is take a grid bearing. So what I'm going to do is lay the compass between the point I'm at and the point I want to get to, like so. And I need to do that with the compass pointing in a direction I'm going to go. Once I've done that, I'm going to rotate this centre part here until the lines are parallel with the lines running north to south up and down the map, okay, which are the eastings. So those lines on the compass are parallel exactly with those grid lines. Once I've done that, I can read off the actual bearing off here, off the scale on the side. So the bearing there is just past 1,850 mils. I don't have to worry about the magnetic compass point at this point, and I can just take that off the map now. So I'm going to put my map away, then I'm going to use the bearing. Okay, so to actually march on a bearing then, all I'm going to do, that's the bearing set there. I'm going to rotate the compass round until the north end of that magnetic needle is sitting perfectly on the centre of the compass there with the arrow there and the two luminous points to guide you. And then once I've done that, I'm going to point the compass in the direction I'm going to go, and this here is the direction of travel arrow. So once I've done that and evened it out, I'm just going to point it like so, and if you have a look now, that's pointing perfectly at the church. Okay, so marching on that bearing then, all I'm going to do is I'm going to look at where that's pointing. Obviously, imagine I can't see that church now. I'm going to point it in the direction of the bearing. I'm going to pick out something I can see along that line. Only needs to be a rock or a clump of grass or anything like that. Once I've found my point, I'm going to put the compass away and walk towards that object and then move off on my bearing. Right, so taking a magnetic bearing off an object on the ground. First thing you want to do is find a prominent object, and luckily we've got one right over there. We've got that church in the background there. So first thing I'm going to do is confirm that I'm definitely looking at the right object, that I can confirm it's the one that I found on the map. Then what I'm going to do is point my compass at the object using the direction of travel arrow as an aiming point, like so, and I hold it up to my eye and line it up. Then what I'm going to do is move this part around until the two luminous dots are in between the north pointer on the arrow there, and I'm just going to confirm that's in the right place. Yeah, and once I've done that, I can take that away from my eye, and that's the bearing there. So again, 1,850 on there. Okay, so that's just a quick run through of plotting bearings, taking bearings and walking on bearings. People out there, I'm sure there's a few notes that I didn't talk about the grid magnetic angle. Okay, so that's the difference between grid north and magnetic north for those that don't know. Now at the moment, that difference in those angles is about just over 1 degree, or like 22 mils or so. Now that doesn't make any difference when you're putting that on the compass. So you can only put a bearing on a compass in gradients of, the most accurate you can do is 25 mils. So it's pretty irrelevant if you're only going to be walking over, say, a K or so. If the GMA, the grid magnetic angle, was bigger than that, then what you do is to take it from a grid bearing to a magnetic bearing, is you add the GMA. If you're going to take it from a magnetic bearing to a grid bearing, then you take it away. So mag to grid, get rid, grid to mag, add. But at the moment it's actually irrelevant because it's such a small angle, it makes no difference to the actual bearing that you're taking. Alright then, so that's me talk through things with bearings and stuff. What I'm going to do next after this is go through resections. So that's finding your position, using other prominent points out there, taking bearings onto them and finding your position. But that's a little bit more complex and I'll be doing that next. So if anybody's got any comments, suggestions or anything, put them in the comments box below and look forward to seeing you soon. Cheers.